Legal AI is reshaping the way we approach challenges in the legal field, offering practical solutions to complex problems. In this episode, we're diving into the real-world applications of legal AI, answering common questions, and exploring how these innovations are being used to streamline processes, enhance decision-making, and transform the industry. Welcome to this episode of Legal Tech with Alphalect.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting set of excerpts here all about AI and law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they focus specifically on how AI is being used in legal practice today. So let's dive right in.
Sounds fascinating. AI seems to be disrupting just about every industry these days, but
Right.
what's particularly intriguing about the legal field is that AI is moving beyond the hype and starting to have a real practical impact.
Yeah, and it's not just about, the idea of robot lawyers, though that is definitely part of the discussion.
Sure.
What we want to really look at today is how AI is changing everything from the everyday work of lawyers to the very concept of justice.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
This document does a really good job of breaking down some key areas where AI is already making a difference.
Okay.
I think one of the most significant ones is automation. Think about all the tasks that lawyers have traditionally done, reviewing documents, researching case law, drafting contracts.
Yeah.
A lot of that is very time consuming.
Yeah.
And, well, let's be honest,
Yeah.
not always the most exciting work.
Right, the legal grind. But it sounds like AI could really change that, making legal services faster, maybe more efficient.
Exactly. And the core technology driving this is natural language processing, or NLP for short.
Okay.
This is what allows AI to actually understand and interpret legal language, which, as you know, can be incredibly complex.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not just about AI scanning documents for keywords, it's actually understanding what the text means.
Right. It's about comprehending the meaning, the context.
Yeah.
Imagine a situation, let's say, a company going through a merger.
Okay.
They've got mountains of contracts to review. We're talking thousands of pages sometimes.
Yeah.
An AI with NLP could analyze those documents so much faster than a human lawyer
Wow.
and flag potential risks, inconsistencies, you name it.
That's really impressive. But how does that translate to someone who just needs legal services? Could this make lawyers more affordable?
It's definitely possible. If AI can take care of a lot of that groundwork, then yeah, it could potentially bring down the overall cost. But there's another side to that.
Oh, okay. What do you mean?
Some experts argue that AI could, fundamentally change what it even means to be a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on these routine tasks, lawyers might have to specialize more in areas where human judgment and strategy are still critical.
So it's not replacing lawyers, but changing how they work.
Exactly. And this shift isn't just happening in, law firms, it's happening in courtrooms too.
Okay.
One area that's generating a lot of buzz is the use of AI to predict legal outcomes.
Predict legal outcomes. What, like AI judges? Is that what you're saying?
No, not quite. It's more about using AI to analyze data from past cases to look for patterns that can inform legal strategy.
Oh, I see. So instead of just relying on, intuition or past experience, lawyers can use AI to get a more data-driven view of things.
Precisely. For example, AI could look at a judge's past rulings and see if they tend to, favor certain arguments or legal precedents. And that could help lawyers tailor their approach and maybe even increase their chances of success.
That's fascinating. But doesn't that raise some questions too? Could it make the legal system too predictable? What about human judgment and interpretation of law?
Oh, absolutely. Those are important questions. And, this idea of AI predicting legal outcomes is still pretty new.
Yeah.
There are definitely concerns about fairness, potential bias, and just unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be very careful about how we use this technology responsibly.
Yeah. It seems like every AI advancement comes with a whole set of ethical and philosophical questions.
Right. But I think that's part of what makes this such a dynamic and interesting field. And it's not just about, lawyers and judges. AI is changing how we think about access to justice. I mean, traditionally, legal services have been really expensive and a lot of people just can't afford them.
For sure.
But imagine a world where you could get, basic legal guidance from an AI chatbot or a virtual assistant.
Oh, okay. So instead of always having to consult with a lawyer, you could get quick and maybe even affordable advice from an AI.
Exactly. Think about like everyday legal matters, writing a simple will, understanding your rights as a tenant,
Yeah.
things like that. AI could make that information so much more accessible,
Mhm.
especially for people who can't afford a lawyer.
That sounds like it could be really, really important for people who, haven't always been well served by the legal system.
It could be a real game changer. But of course, we have to also think about how to ensure that AI generated legal advice is accurate, reliable, all of that.
Right. So there's that balance again. Seems like every exciting opportunity with AI also comes with a set of challenges to think about.
Exactly. And speaking of challenges, one area where AI is really shaking things up is legal education itself.
AI in law school, what does that look like?
Well, imagine instead of, just sitting through lectures, you can learn in a way that's personalized, interactive,
Wow.
with AI tailoring the content to your learning style, to how fast you learn.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So AI could actually help students learn more effectively.
That's the goal. It could analyze your strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
identify where you need more practice, and then give you customized feedback and support.
Wow, that's so different from the traditional law school experience. Tons of reading and scary exams.
It is. But there's another aspect to AI and legal education that I think is even more significant.
Really? What's that?
It's not just about how students learn. It's about what they need to learn.
Okay.
Because as AI becomes more and more integrated into the legal profession, future lawyers are going to need a whole new set of skills.
Like what?
Well, they'll need to know how to use AI tools effectively, of course.
Yeah.
But also how to analyze the data that AI generates, how to spot potential bias in algorithms, and really to think critically about the ethical implications of using AI in the law.
So law schools are going to have to adapt to get students ready for this AI-powered future.
Absolutely. And this is where things get really interesting, because if law students need to learn new skills to work with AI, the question becomes, what are those skills exactly?
Right.
And how do we even teach them?
Yeah, that's a big question. It sounds like legal education is about to go through a major transformation.
Yeah, I think so. And the effects of that are going to be felt way beyond the classroom, because if AI is changing how lawyers learn, it's also going to change how they practice law. And that brings us to one of the most exciting areas where AI is starting to make a difference, and that's dispute resolution.
Dispute resolution. You mean like mediation and arbitration?
Exactly. Imagine instead of fighting it out in court for years, what if people in a dispute could use AI to come to a resolution much faster, more efficiently?
So AI could actually help people resolve their conflicts without going through the court system.
That's the idea. There are some platforms out there that are already using AI to analyze evidence, assess the strengths of arguments, and even propose possible solutions.
That's incredible. It sounds like AI could completely revolutionize how we think about resolving conflict.
It really could. But of
Yeah.
course, just like with any really powerful technology, there are ethical questions we need to think about.
About what?
Well, for instance, how do we make sure that these AI-powered systems are fair, impartial? How do we prevent bias from creeping into the algorithms? And what about the role of human judgment? Empathy in resolving these kinds of conflicts.
Those are some big questions. The more we talk about AI and law, the more complex the ethical issues become.
It's true. And that's why it's so important to have these discussions, to really think critically about AI and to make sure that we're using it in a way that benefits everyone.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already. Automating legal tasks, predicting court cases, transforming education, revolutionizing dispute resolution. It's amazing to think about how much impact AI is already having on the legal world.
Oh, for sure. And this is really just the beginning. I think as AI keeps evolving, we can expect to see even more advancements and more challenges in the years to come.
It's definitely a lot to consider.
But this document also highlights AI's influence in another complex area of law, intellectual property.
Absolutely. Intellectual property law, dealing with patents, trademarks, copyrights, all of that. It's becoming so important in our digital age. And AI is proving to be a really powerful tool for managing and protecting these intangible assets. Intellectual property law has always seemed kind of mysterious to me. Can you give me an example of how AI is actually being used in this area?
Sure. Let's say you're a company with a huge portfolio of patents. Keeping track of all those patents, making sure no one else is infringing on them, analyzing competitor patents. It's a lot to handle. But AI algorithms can help automate a big chunk of that process.
So it's like AI can be a super-powered patent lawyer, constantly on the lookout for potential threats and opportunities.
That's a great way to put it. AI can analyze these massive databases of patents, comparing your inventions to existing ones, identifying potential conflicts, even alerting you to new trends in your field.
That sounds incredibly valuable for businesses that are trying to, stay ahead of the game.
Oh, it is. And it's not just about being defensive. AI can also help companies develop offensive strategies for their intellectual property.
What do you mean by offensive strategies?
Well, for instance, AI can analyze patent data to find potential licensing opportunities. Let's say your company develops new groundbreaking technology. AI could help you find other companies who might want to license that technology, and that could open up whole new revenue streams.
So AI can help companies make smart decisions about how to use their intellectual property to, get the most out of it. Pretty impressive.
It is, and this is really just one example of how AI is changing intellectual property law. There are a lot of other applications, from trademark monitoring to copyright enforcement, where AI is playing a bigger and bigger role.
It seems like we're moving toward a world where AI is involved in almost every single aspect of the law. But I'm curious, with all this focus on AI, what happens to, the human element in law?
That's the key question, isn't it? One of the most important takeaways from this document is that even as AI gets more sophisticated, the human factor is still absolutely essential. Lawyers will need to develop new skills to work effectively with AI, to understand what it can and can't do, and to make sure it's being used ethically and responsibly.
So it's not about AI versus humans, it's about AI and humans working together.
Exactly. And that's so important, not just in law, but in every field that's being transformed by AI.
Okay, so we've talked about AI automating tasks, predicting cases, changing how intellectual property is managed. It's clear that AI is having a big impact all across the legal landscape. But what about the big picture? What are the broader implications of all this?
That's where things get really interesting. One of the biggest implications is potential for AI to increase access to justice. We touched on this a bit earlier with AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants, but it goes way beyond that.
In what way?
Think about it.
Yeah.
Legal services have always been expensive. They take a lot of time, and that's created a justice gap where people who can afford legal help have a huge advantage over those who can't.
Yeah, that's a serious problem, and one that disproportionately impacts people with lower incomes and marginalized groups.
Exactly. And AI could help level the playing field by automating tasks, making processes smoother, and making legal information more readily available. AI could make legal services more affordable and efficient for everyone.
That sounds really promising. But are there any downsides to increasing accessibility like that? Could it have unintended consequences?
There are always potential downsides to consider. We need to be careful about the quality of AI-generated legal advice, for example. We don't want people relying on information that's inaccurate or incomplete.
Right, so it's about using AI responsibly and ethically, not just throwing technology at the problem without thinking it through.
Exactly. We have to approach AI with a critical eye, always questioning its assumptions and being on the lookout for potential pitfalls.
It feels like this idea of balancing innovation with ethical concerns keeps coming up.
It does, and for good reason. AI is powerful, and like any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for bad. It's our responsibility to make sure that we're using it to promote justice, fairness, and equality.
That's a great point. So where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this AI and law revolution?
That's a question a lot of people are grappling with. Legal experts, tech people, policymakers all over the world. There's no easy answer, but one thing's for sure. We have to keep having these conversations, thinking critically about AI, and working together to shape a future where AI is used to create a legal system that's more just and equitable.
I agree. We can't just sit back and let AI shape the legal world for us. We need to be active participants in the process.
Absolutely. And that means being informed, staying engaged, and being willing to ask tough questions.
Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. It's amazing to see how AI is already reshaping the legal world in so many different ways. From everything we've explored, AI is going to have a huge impact on the future of law.
It is. And while there are definitely challenges and risks, there's also an incredible amount of potential for AI to make the legal system more efficient, more accessible, and possibly even fairer for everyone.
I'm excited and maybe a little apprehensive about what the future holds, but I'm really glad we're having this conversation. It's important to be aware of what's happening and to think critically about how we want AI to shape the legal world.
I agree. These are complex issues without simple answers. But by having thoughtful discussions, we can hopefully navigate this new territory responsibly and make sure AI is used to create a more just and equitable future.
Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to ponder. And, this document you've shared, it doesn't just focus on the flashy stuff. It also highlights how AI is changing something that's often overlooked, but essential: compliance.
Absolutely. Especially with all the rules and regulations they have to deal with these days. Companies spend a ton of time and resources trying to stay compliant. And it's not just about following the rules that exist today, it's about keeping up with the changes, the updates, all of that.
It sounds like a compliance officer's worst nightmare. But it sounds like you're saying that AI might be able to help with that.
Exactly. AI is really changing the game for compliance. Think about it. AI algorithms can track regulatory changes, in real time and flag potential issues before they become big problems. Plus, they can analyze huge amounts of company data and spot patterns that might point to compliance risks.
So instead of having whole teams of lawyers manually reviewing mountains of documents and regulations, AI could automate a lot of that, making compliance more efficient and maybe even, proactive.
Exactly. It's about moving away from just reacting to problems after they happen to using AI to identify and prevent those risks in the first place.
That's a huge advantage for companies. But I do wonder, if AI is constantly monitoring everything and looking for violations, could that actually stifle innovation? Will companies be less likely to take risks if they know AI is watching?
That's a good point. We don't want to create a world where fear of non-compliance stifles progress and creativity. It's a good reminder that even with AI handling a lot of the work, human judgment, ethical considerations, those things are still super important.
It goes back to that idea we've been talking about, finding that balance between using the power of AI and making sure we keep the human element in the law.
Exactly. And that actually leads to what might be the most fundamental question of all this. What does it mean to be human in a world where machines are playing a bigger and bigger role in these legal processes?
Wow, that's a big one. Makes you think about what makes us unique, especially in a field like law, where things like judgment, empathy, and ethics have always been so important.
Absolutely. As AI gets better at doing things like legal research, reviewing documents, even predicting court outcomes, we have to ask ourselves, what are those uniquely human skills that will become even more valuable? What are the things that algorithms just can't replicate?
It's like we're being challenged to redefine what it means to be a lawyer, a judge, a legal professional in this new world.
I think you're right. It's not about being replaced by robots. It's about adapting. It's about understanding that AI is a tool, a powerful one, but ultimately one that needs humans to guide it, to oversee it.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. We've explored so much, from practical uses of AI in law to the bigger philosophical and ethical questions it brings up. If I had to sum it up in a few key takeaways, well, first, AI is already having a big impact on the legal world, and that's only going to grow. Second, AI has the potential to make the legal system more efficient, more accessible, maybe even fairer. But third, and I think this is the most important one, as we use AI more and more, we have to do it thoughtfully, responsibly. We have to make sure that human values, ethical considerations, those things always come first.
Perfectly said. This document has given us so much to consider, a real framework for understanding AI and law. But in the end, it's up to all of us, lawyers, tech people, policymakers, everyone, to figure out how to use this technology and make sure it's used for good.
I completely agree. This is a conversation that needs to continue, and we hope everyone listening will join in. Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and let's work together to create a future where AI and the law work together to build a more just and equitable world for everyone.